Big Ant Studios, bless their hearts, they try, but it's been almost 20 years and can you name a single passable, not even good, but good enough to play game that they have made? I'll wait. In fact, I'll pass the time by playing Rugby League 26. Oh god, no, sorry, that was a terrible idea. A game that promised so much ends up on the scrap heap with their other poor efforts in the realms of rugby union, Aussie rules, cricket, tennis, and even sprint cars. You see, Big Ant's track record of putting out bad sporting games goes all the way back to the PlayStation 2. However, their first notable effort wasn't a sports game at all. Nope, they teamed up with Chrome Studios to produce The Legend of Spyro: The Eternal Night, a game that was widely reviewed as fine enough visually, but not fun to play unless you were super into the Spyro series, at which point you would have bought anything. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it basically sums up every game Big Ant has ever made since then. The studio first came onto my radar with Sprint Cars 2 Showdown at Eldora. As a bit of a racing guy, the idea seemed cool. Dirt racing is fun. World of Outlaws Sprint Cars 2002 was a really underrated gym with its career mode I spent a lot of time playing back in the day. Sprint Cars 2 Showdown at Eldora was no World of Outlaws Sprint Cars 2002, not even close. One of the taglines for the latter was "Eat Dirt and Drive." It was a lot of the former and little of the latter. It's not a horrible, outlandishly bad game. You can tell the people making this liked and respected the dirt racing scene, even if Eldora was the biggest licensed track they splurged for. Visually, it's fine. I do enjoy the limited number of tear-off features you get during the various stages of each race, but the gameplay is so boring and so repetitive. If you've done one race, you've done them all. Sure, the tracks are different and each class handles slightly differently, just not enough to make the game fun. There's nothing of substance here. And even then, some of the movement's a bit wonky. It's just not quite the way it should be. Big Ant's latest game, Rugby League 26, is much the same. You'll see a lot out there about the graphics, and they're not awful, not good, mind you, but you'll see worse even on the PlayStation 5. And you have to love having all of the licensed teams and licensed players, both in NRL, Super League, NRLW. That's cool, but holy hell is this game repetitive to play. Every match feels the same, and at no point would you classify this as a fun experience. What continues to bother me though is just how unnatural the player movements are. There's nothing fluid about how players run or change direction. It's like watching aliens pretending to be humans trying to mimic running. Or in other words, it's the video game equivalent of Third Rock from the Sun. Seriously though, why can't Big Ant figure out how to make athletes in video games move at least somewhat naturally? I mean, this movement is nearly identical to what was in Rugby League Live 4, which was released by Big Ant in 2017. How have you made no improvements at all over that time? However, this issue isn't simply limited to the latest Rugby League release. Every Big Ant game features the same unnatural player movements. Rugby 25 has everything needed to be a great game apart from decent gameplay. Not good or even great gameplay, just gameplay that doesn't devolve into extreme levels of banality after a handful of games, lifeless players awkwardly roaming around playing something that resembles rugby union. The less said about Big Ant's AFL games, the better. I mean, there hasn't ever been a truly great Aussie rules game, but AFL 23 and 26 are, in a word, dog shit. Somehow the company's best effort was AFL Live, which was released in 2011. That is suboptimal. It honestly is kind of inexplicable. That may be bad, but Big Ant's cricket games are worse. They're really a particular disappointment for me since they've been making them for over a decade now, and these have shown little to no improvement. Licensed teams, players, stadiums, and real-life commentators are cool only when the gameplay isn't frustrating or modes depressingly shallow. And holy crap, Cricket 24 is the video game equivalent of a derelict kiddie pool at an abandoned water park. You can see the foundation, but the water is long gone and there's nothing useful on the site. The same problems that have plagued the cricket series for years have not been fixed, haven't even been addressed. Everything feels lifeless. The games play exactly the same. Game modes are dull. It's mindless repetition under the guise of cricket. It's not that the public is expecting this perfect game, but progress, just simple good old progress would be nice. And progress for Big Ant Studios remains elusive. Sports are all about development, right? Player development, coaching development, making improvements, getting better. Similarly, those making sports video video games should strive to do the same. We can pile on EA and 2K all we want for those yearly roster updates, but even Madden shows occasional progress year over year, at least more so than Big Ant does with their releases, which aren't even annual in most cases. This is the studio that promised updated visuals and better realism with Rugby League 26. It failed on both accounts, spectacularly so. And the company has failed across the board, dating all the way back to its PS2 days, to Spyro, and to the sprint cars. It's almost as if Big Ant thinks simply putting out a game involving a sport that doesn't have a game is enough. Fans will simply be grateful for the effort. And maybe that was enough in the PlayStation 3 era, as some folks do fondly remember the likes of Rugby League Live series and even AFL Live. But the issue today is that most of those who played the aforementioned games and liked them were kids. They didn't know any better. Now those kids are grown up and have realized just how bad Big Ant is at making sports games. 19 years of suck. Big Ant has been putting out sports games for 19 years and they have never produced a game that was great. Honestly, average seems to be the studio's ceiling, and it's a ceiling they rarely hit, and the floor is disaster. That is a target they seem to reach on a regular basis. It defies belief that a company can be so bad for so long at doing something and continue to keep doing that thing. I suppose it's a byproduct of the video game industry's consolidation, which harms sports games more than most. For fans of rugby league, rugby union, cricket, and really anything that's not soccer or major American sports, the option has become either have a terrible game or no game at all. Not really sure which option is better. I suppose it wouldn't be so bad if Big Ant wasn't charging AAA studio prices for games that offer AAA license quality and spendthrift mobile developer gameplay. $20 for whatever Rugby League 26 is supposed to be, or for any of the cricket titles or those awful AFL games, sure, fine, whatever. But $59.99 American or $89 Australian is an absolute joke. It's a joke though that no one is laughing at. Look, Big Ant seems to genuinely like these sports they're making games for. These are in some way a passion project, and they do try, at least I think they try. However, you have to show improvement, and no, less bugs is not an improvement. Instead of spending all of that money on licenses and players, invest in the gameplay. Invest in making a game that actually resembles what fans see. At the end of the day, it's easy to create a facade, slap a few real-life teams playing in a well-known stadium, and create a trailer that looks the part. The issue is that once you're inside the house, you realize that it's nothing more than a fancy exterior. The pipes are leaking, there's asbestos everywhere, and the place stinks. For almost 20 years, Big Ant have claimed to be video game developers, but in reality, they're video game facade developers. Make something that looks great on first glance, and then after you buy the game and spend 20 minutes with it, you realize you've been sold a false bill of goods. Rugby League 26 is just like AFL 26, and those are most likely going to be what Cricket 26 will produce, and it's not the first or last time that Big Ant pushes out a video game facade. They've somehow been getting away with this for nearly 2 decades. It's sad. It's bad. It should probably make people mad. I'm not sure what we did to deserve this apart from liking sports that may not be hugely popular. And no matter how many times Big Ant apologizes or says they'll do better or try harder in the future, history shows that simply is not going to happen. Maybe one day we'll get that rugby league game we all deserve, but it ain't Rugby League 26, that's for damn sure. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to know more about just what made EA Sports Rugby so great for Americans, check out the video in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. For more video game content, that'd be the playlist in the lower left. Anyway, until next time, I'm Shine Hollis, this is the Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.